Hello, hello. Welcome back to Math Made Possible. I believe I can. I'm your current teacher, Miss Howard, and today we're going to be reviewing for our end of unit exam. This video is going to be part one of a three-part series. So please stay tuned for those videos. All right, these are some tips that I went over with the students, and hopefully these strategies can help you understand it a little bit better. All right, so first of all, we have to remember that the formula for volume for a prism would be uh, length times width times height, and this is for a rectangular prism. And what I taught my students to do is to make sure that you highlight each line or each side a different color. So for example, I chose to have my length to be blue, I chose to have my width to be pink, and I chose to have my height to be green. Okay. Now, keep in mind, the words don't matter, but what matters is that you must have one of each color for your expression. You must have one horizontal line, you must have one value that is going diagonal, and you have to have one value that is going vertical. Okay? And another strategy that we have to remember is to write out our key. So again, I made my length to be blue, and instead of writing the word length and then writing the word blue right next to it, I just wrote it in that color. I wrote the word length in that color. I wrote the word width in pink. I wrote the word height in green. All right. Another um, thought process that I need you all to pay attention to uh, is when you are decomposing a prism, right? And you have to figure out what that unknown side length is. Take a look at our lines here. We have a very long line right here, and that value is 10. Then we have a very short line right here, and that value is 4. Well, we know that this line is not as long as this, so it must be less than 10. And we know that this line is longer than this line, which must mean that it is more than 4. So here's how we find our answer for that unknown. We take our value of 10 and we subtract it, and we subtract 4, excuse me, and that value would be 6. So now you go back and you ask yourself, does this make sense? Well, 4 is the least number and it's the shortest line. This is the um, middle length line, that's 6, and our longest line is 10. So it does make sense. All right, let's take a look at this. Again, we're going to highlight our sides. That's the first thing that everyone should be doing. Your criteria for success in my room is making sure that you're highlighting, right? And I'm not going to choose the same colors that I did on the last side because I don't remember what they are. But what I am going to do is I'm going to make sure that I label my sides, right? So the first thing that I do with this prism is I'm going to count my cubes. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so I'm going to write the letter L down here. That equals 6. Next one, let me go ahead and make that blue. And I'm going to call that my width. Again, that is diagonal. 1, 2, 3, 3, 4. Okay. Let's make sure we only have 4 dots there so no one is confused. So that would equal 4. And now we have our other side, which is vertical, and that would be the height. And let's count our boxes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Another mistake that I'm seeing students do is they're like, oh, well, I already know the answer. And they turn around and write 4 instead of double checking to make sure they have the accurate number for the amount of cubes that they see right in front of them. So please make sure that you count your cubes. Put your pencil on the paper and count the cubes, or your marker, whatever you're using. Again, just like the last slide said, you must have one horizontal line, one diagonal line, and one vertical line. Now, this one is asking us to write out the different ways that we would find a volume for this. So let's begin with using the easy one. V equals length times width times height. So we said our length was 6 times 4 for our width times 5. That's pretty easy. Another strategy is using the area of the base times height. Now take our three numbers that we have here. All we have to do now is change up the order. Multiply two numbers together, and then once you find that value, then you write the third, multiply by that third number. So let's take our first one here. So we know that 6 times 4, that equals 24, and then we would say 24 times 5. Simple. Okay. Another way that we could write it is V equals, or volume equals. Now, since I already did 6 times 4, I'm going to go ahead and do 4 times 5. And we'll say that's 20 times 6. Please make sure that you don't multiply the same number twice. Okay, again, one color per expression. Now, another way that we could write this is V equals 6 times 5, and we know that 6 times 5, that equals 30, and that would be 30 times 4. All right? Another way that you can do it is repeated addition. Now, I'm going to take the last one that I wrote, and I'm going to write V equals 30, what we already know is 30, and we know that repeated addition is just the opposite, is the same as multiplication. So that's basically 30 times 4 is basically 30 plus 30 plus 30 plus 30. 1, 2, 3, 4. Again, 30 times 4. All right, so those are the different ways that you can find the volume to this. Okay, so that's what we're expecting. You might see this where you have to write out your expressions, or you might see this where you have to choose all of the correct expressions to find the volume. Okay, I'm actually going to pick up with this problem on our next video. I did run out of time for this specific part 1. So again, we'll pick up with this prism on part 2. Stay tuned and hope to see you at our next video.